fact that your husband has no clue what you're doing.
Has zero idea, and just like,
now,
you know, everyone's gotta listen. This guy is obsessed with his leaf blower.
boys and their toys,
That's
right?
correct.
Boys and their machines.
Yes, so it was broken, and he's been dying to get it fixed.
Oh, that's so funny.
Because those little buds from the damn tree in the front get everywhere.
Your big, beautiful tree. Oh, tell me about your tree again. So
My
I know
magical tree.
your magical tree, because I remember when I rolled up in October, because you are obsessed with Halloween decos. It looked like a tree out of a movie, and the way you had it decorated and everything around was so nice.
So the story of my tree, when we bought this house, going on 5 years ago, it was legally dead by the city.
Seriously?
Yeah.
That is not a dead tree. That tree is thriving. But anyways, okay, go on.
We even got the little ticket that they could take it down, whatever. I was pregnant with Mateo. Mateo was born in April. So we moved in December of 2018. He was born in April 2019.
Mm-hmm.
That summer, even when we came to look at the house at the end of August, it was like dead. There was no leaves, nothing.
I remember.
That summer, this tree starts to bloom.
That's crazy.
And
before Mateo was born or just after?
after. It was dead. It was not blooming before he
His
was
spirit.
born.
Yes.
And then we come to find out that Mateo's spirit is a fairy spirit. And my tree has fairies in it. They live in my tree.
I believe that. And you have to send me a photo, or I'm going to snap a photo before I leave. Because
There's actually, if you look at, so when you're on the road and you're looking at my house, on the tree, it looks like a face of an old lady. Like,
yes, that's what really got me. Because I guess when it was all decorated with Halloween, I was like, how did you get that?
it's just,
Into the tree. You're like, that is natural.
that is natural. It kind of reminds me, like the cartoon Pocahontas.
Yes.
And the willow tree with the old lady's face. That's what it reminded me of.
I know. And so nobody knows it came back to life. You did not do anything.
We did absolutely nothing. We were ready to cut it down.
That's crazy.
And here we are. And then I've also caught on my Ring camera little fairies flying around with legs like.
That,
So
and
they do
fairies,
exist.
rainbows, unicorns, and fairies are my favorite. You gotta believe, right?
Yeah.
Don't you think?
1000%.
Well, you're
All
very
for it.
you're very intuitive yourself,
Yes.
and you know and see and believe in things. Let's say the average person may not.
May say that I'm crazy.
So, hey.
Crazy.
That
is
fiery, red hair. Yeah, crazy's the new hot, anyways.
good. Yes.
But
I'll take it.
you're like, I'm down. But, and, when did you start to know that you were intuitive?
Ever since I was a little girl.
Like, how little? I'm always
Like-
interested, because I always knew I was intuitive, and I can't even, I would like to say I was 3, but who really remembers? But I was young.
I was young too,
Young,
and my
yeah.
dad is very intuitive. There'd be times where I'd catch him talking outside, and I'm like, who the hell are you talking to? You don't speak English, and this man's talking to the neighbors,
Oh my God.
And he's like, no, I was talking to your grandfather. I was talking, and I'm just like, but they're dead. And so I started to realize, holy shit, I'm also like that.
Mm-hmm.
I would see my grandparents that I'd never met, whether in my room or they'd call me or, always around.
I love
my mom
that.
has
Your
this,
angels.
Yes. My mom, Portuguese background, my mom is very religious.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a Virgin Mary shrine
Of course you do. Because why wouldn't you?
in the forbidden room with the couches that have plastic on it that you can't
sit on. I think everybody had those rooms. Okay, yes.
And I remember my mom had taken her shrine apart, the table apart, because she was dusting it and cleaning it, and she moved it into a new space. I think this Mary is like, I don't know, at least 2.5 feet tall.
At minimum. Okay, yeah.
And I look, and she's crying with real tears. And I look at my mom, I'm like, Mom, she's crying. she doesn't like her new spot. And she's like, what are you talking about? There's like, she's not crying crazy, batshit crazy daughter of mine.
Ka-chung! You got one of the backhands. Shut up in your face.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, she full on has like tears coming down her face. I'm like, she doesn't like the spot that you put her. And then she had rosary that it was a silver thing that she was like cleaning the rosary. Mm-hmm. Again, this thing kept falling and breaking. I mean, she didn't like the idea.
In the new space, though.
In the new space. I'm like, you need to move her back. She doesn't belong here. And that rosary needs to be rusted and filthy, and that's just the way like, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Sure enough, decided to put her back. And she's been happy ever since with a smile on her face. A statue.
Seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And do they still live in the same house?
They still live in the same house with the same statue.
With the same plastic.
With the same plastic.
And it's funny because people that... I feel like there's always signs, and people will put it off to, oh my God, that's such a coincidence, or yeah, that was so weird, or something, right?
That's your eyes playing tricks on you.
Yes. And then, for me, even when I was super young, there was just so many things that just you couldn't explain it away as a coinkydink, mm-hmm. or, oh my God, it's so weird, or something. I remember just now thinking when you told me that, my sister, as you know, passed away somewhat tragically in LA, and I've been stressing out. I mean, we were away on vacation when we got the news. We were with my whole family. My mom was there.
You were in Dominican, right?
Something like that, or
down south or somewhere.
I don't know. Anyways, and then we had to fly back, and then just a big rigmarole to try to get the body from, or your loved one, I should say, but her body back to Canada.
Right.
And I was on the phone with LAPD North, which apparently is the busiest police station known in the States. But anyhow, it was very, very hard. But my point to my story, I was stressing. I was having like all these panic attacks because I wanted to do this for my mom, right? She wanted to bury her daughter. And in my bedroom, there's this bay window. And when I say a bay window, you can't sit on it, but it's probably about, I don't know, a foot of like room where I have all my frames. And I had the picture that I took of my father. The very last photo that I took of my dad was out by our pool. It was a face shot, whatever. Anyways, and I'm getting ready, and I can sort, I gotta be honest, no windows, there's nothing. I'm telling you this for a reason. And all of a sudden I'm on the phone with them, and I think I was talking to the coroner, and all of a sudden I hear smash. And I'm like, I jumped. I thought I was going to have a friggin' coronary. Anyways, I looked down, and my father's picture jumped, whatever, off of the bay window, and it cracked into, the glass cracked into this X. It was so weird. And it was kind of hit to me. I mean, everybody can take that message as, oh, it must have been a draft, the windows were open, and that's why I said there was none of that. But the X was kind of, to me, I took that as a stop it. This isn't going to change anything.
It's not going to bring her back.
It's not going to bring, yes, and just
because you're trying, because it was like obviously a weird
yeah.
death and unexplainable, so you're trying to figure out
and
answers.
Young and all that other stuff, but that was his sign to like stop it.
Yeah.
Anyways, and even Matt, not that he's not a believer, because he's seen stuff like that you cannot explain away.
Right.
And when I showed him that, he was just like, okay, yeah, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Just stop trying to get answers. I mean, my mom wanted them, whatever. The long story short is that I feel like our loved ones, whether it's your folks, your grandparents, they are our angels. And I think if you pay attention, and just like the stuff that I bought from you, which I love, so one of your many talents, making just amazing gifts and everything like that, that jar that sits very happily full, I think I need another one soon, because everybody leaves change in their pocket, but it's like, I think it says dimes from heaven.
It says, yes. And it has beautiful angel wings.
Beautiful.
You are huge on wings.
Yes, I love
so,
my
and that was the only one that I had made that day.
Come on. Seriously?
Yes.
And the funny thing is, I've never seen it. I see you religiously every 5 weeks. I've never seen it. And I only really wanted to go to that event to come and see you. And,
right.
Obviously to show support for Lucy. But as soon as I saw it, I'm like, that's mine.
Yes.
You know,
You're like, "Put it away."
it was made for me. But, you know, to go back to that is the fact that, you know, until somebody really started telling me about, and this was many years ago, about numbers or about dimes, that's when I started seeing them, and it would be at the weirdest times. And dimes are not
in the most randomest place too. Again, like you said, who carries dimes nowadays, right?
Well,
like
100%. Well, the jar you got me does now, but yeah, it's not like it's quarters or loonies or toonies or whatever.
Right.
It was the dimes,
they're
and
specific.
so yeah, the fact that you made that was definitely made for me.
It was, because like I said, that was the only. All the other ones had the cardinal on it, and that was the only one that had the angel wings.
Yeah, the cardinal one we got for Gina, which she loves because.
Which is so crazy because she's never gotten a dime in her life, and the day that
Yes.
she came,
No, that was a feather. The one that I got her was a feather. She's never gotten a feather.
no, it was dimes.
Are you sure? Do
Yes.
we have to call her?
Yes.
It was a feather.
No, it was diamonds. We got
Okay,
her the
well-
cardinal one, and she even said, she's like, that is so crazy, because I said, Adrianne got this jar, and she's like, oh my god, and she takes the dime out of her pocket. She's like, I've never gotten one, and look, and I was like, shut
Oh,
up.
was it a
Even-
dime?
Yeah, even Tony was there, and he was just like, whoa.
Oh my
That's
god,
weird.
that is weird. But I think you also mentioned something about feathers to her.
Because I had, yes, because she
Because
never
she-
knew that
yeah.
was also a sign.
And when she left, she found a feather on her step to go inside.
No, did she?
Swear to God, yeah. I thought that's why I was like, I'm like, no, it's a dead feather. No, it's a dime.
Regardless, it's a sign from her loved one.
Exactly. Well, and her dad always sees cardinals for her mom.
I
right?
love that.
I do too. And so one of, as I said, your many entrepreneurial talents, aside from, I don't trust anybody else with my hair except you, darling,
Except
is, you know, being the hair guru, which is so true. And I
Which
know
I
you
feel
have
like-
a massive wait list.
I do. But I also feel too, like, because me being intuitive, I attract people who
Or
are
saying,
like beings or need help.
exactly.
So-
You're like, I'm just sending it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's so important because, you know, everybody thinks working for yourself, it's, you know, all rainbows and unicorns. And as much as I love being an entrepreneur and I would never trade it for the world, there's a lot of, you know, stresses and things that go along with it. I mean, even for you, I mean, you know, I've got the 4 boys, you've got the 2. I had them all in rep hockey. And
Yes, which I don't
and
even know how you even manage that.
But the same way you did and the same way you do. You just do it. And people always ask me, they're like, oh my God, how the hell do you do it? My answer is you just do.
You just
And
figure
you-
it out. That's part of being a mom. There's no manual, there's no script,
No.
you just figure shit out.
Well, that, but also being, you know, you've got a double whammy because really you have 3 children because your business, you know, requires
including
so
my husband.
much. Okay, well, that's like having 20-something kids, right? But, you know, you figure it out somehow, some way.
Yes.
And, you know, I don't know what your tips or your tricks and stuff are because sometimes I see, you know, you on social and I'm like, who made this basket or the beautiful cake that you made, you know, with the little bunny butt and the feet and
my smash
she
cakes.
puts smash cakes and she puts like all these treats in with like a little hammer. I love it. And I'm like, when does she have time? So your book,
I don't
morning,
sleep.
noon, and night. I don't, like every
Yeah.
entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
That's actually, I shouldn't say that because the really, really, you know, highly functional, motivational coaches are all like, you need to sleep. And I, you know, sometimes that
Sleep
is
is
my,
for the dead.
that's, you know what? That's such a European thing. My father used to say that. He's like me. He needs like 4 hours and he's good.
Oh my god. I
You
don't
know,
if I
he's
can
like, I'll
survive.
sleep when I'm dead.
4
and-
hours, I can't.
No, you can't. Okay, but anyways, what my point to my story is, I don't know how you find the time to make all this stuff. I was the one that was thrilled when, you know, Pillsbury dough, they make those rolls. I was
Yes.
the one that would pay the extra $2 for the pre-cut ones. Because even cutting them, that minute that it took, that was a minute that I could spend, you know, running in the house, getting them all ready for hockey. I mean, this one was obviously when they were much younger.
Right.
But you know, time is just so
is of the essence, right?
Well, it's just everybody's time poor. But when I hear some of my mentors talking and they're like, okay, there's 24 hours, okay, do it as a pie, right? So you sleep 4 hours, let's just say 6, okay?
Yeah.
You sleep 6 hours, you've got 18 hours of that pie left. What are you gonna do with that, right?
Yeah.
And then you start really whittling it down. It's like, oh my God, I do really have a lot of time. And that's really something in the last decade or so that's kind of worked for me, where I try to plan out with the best laid plans, you know, being an entrepreneur and a mother of 4 is, you know, things change, I get it. But if you kind of have like the same sort of schedule, which I know you try to keep too, I think that's what really keeps you like on point
You
and
need
on
to
track.
have a schedule.
You've got to have a schedule, but you also have to forgive yourself if you go out of it 1 or 2 days because something came up, or you know, you have a family or some kind of an event or something, or an emergency. You have to be able to come back from that.
Right.
And I know, like, say like 15 years ago, I would really struggle trying to come back from it if
Or
I
feel
didn't.
guilty, right?
Yeah, if I didn't, I was like, oh my God, I just spent like 3 hours doing this. How am I going to catch up? And sometimes it's like, you know, it'll be there and I'll figure out the time. So do you so scheduling is key for you,
Yes.
right? And then what about anything else? Like, I'm thinking when I look at your life, you're very, very, you might not feel like this, but you seem very organized.
Well, it depends if you ask me or if you ask my husband.
Forget about that. I'm
He will
talking
tell
to
you that I'm very disorganized. I'm a,
But yet you
what
run
do they
like
call
3
it, chaotic,
But that's
organized.
yeah. But it's your organized.
It's
like it
my
doesn't
organized.
have to be his organized, right? And I'm the same. And it's like you're organized in a way that you can run 2 and 3, in my mind, fairly successful businesses.
Thanks.
That you obviously do have a method to your madness. And people are always like, oh, I want to be just like her, and
No,
they
you
want to
don't.
start. And you're like, no, you don't. Let me tell you, sister, that'll be part 2.
Yes.
But they feel like they don't have the time, and somehow you make it. And like you said, whether it's after you put the kids to bed, or you pop in a movie and you come and do your thing, or sometimes I've even seen you get the kids involved to help you make some of the stuff you do, like little crafts for them, and then their attention span of 5 seconds or
Gone.
50 minutes, they're gone, and then you get to continue.
Right.
I love that too, because I've seen you do that.
For me, I think that's why I started getting into crafting, because it was kind of an escape. I was just couldn't get lost into crafting.
That's interesting.
But then that just over COVID kind of blew up. I've been doing it. I started when I was on mat leave with Massimo, and he's 10, so
Wow.
9 years ago, let's just say, give or take.
Yeah.
But then it wasn't until COVID and the pandemic that it really bloomed. And
Isn't that interesting?
that I'm like, oh my gosh, now this is another full-time job. How am I going to do this? And the only thing that really was, I feel bad to say it, but I did neglect my kids a little bit. And as much as I tried to be a part of everything they did, there was times where I'm just like, sorry, I can't put you to bed because I got these orders that I got to complete. I just finished work and whatnot.
Yeah. So
what I would say too is I try to have some sort of self-care, which I'm terrible at.
No, don't say that. But I want to go back to something you said. It's so interesting that you said, I feel so bad. I call it the
Mom
European.
guilt.
Well, I think it stems even from before that. I kind of call it the European guilt. My mom's still like freaking pro at it, right? And it's kind of like, oh, I feel so bad. But why do you feel bad? Because you know what? This is what I've learned, because my kids are a little bit older than yours. And they're kind of like, oh, what do you mean you're not? Because I was always, home for when they got home. I was always there. I was involved. But a lot of times I was on the phone, or I was, like you said, you feel bad and you have this guilt. They actually need it for their independence. And it's kind of good that, not saying your kids are still quite young, but to put themselves to bed, or your hubby can put them to bed, or whatever. I think it gives them a different perspective almost on life, and a little bit of independence. And kind of looking back, I wish I did so. And don't feel guilty, because really what you're teaching them in my opinion, is, you know, I need time for me to be good for you.
Right.
So I'm going to, you know, bugger off literally down, you know, 10 steps. And, you know, should you need me because your arm falls off or you lose an eyeball, I'm right here.
Right.
But, you know, if you're just going to throw a temper tantrum or, you know, you're cranky and hungry, dad or grandma are there, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's sort of teaching them a really good message. I think it's our messaging to ourselves that we almost have to change. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a generational curse to say those things, right? Like,
Huge.
I think for me as well, I feel like I have to please everybody. I'm such a people pleaser.
Mm-hmm. What
And
did
then
you
when I
say
don't,
though? You just, sorry, wait, okay, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's okay.
Again. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that I'm such a people pleaser. So for me, if I'm not pleasing somebody, I feel guilty about it.
Well, guilty or you're letting somebody down or something. But what you said in the beginning, even when we wanted, I said to you, let's just flip the camera on and start chatting, because that's what it's about. And because you said you wanted to start your own podcast, which I'm so encouraging you, and you're going to do. But that we'll argue about that later.
I would like to do one where it's a confessions with your hairstylist. Let's face it. Your hairstylist knows everything about you.
Yeah, therapy 101. Let me tell you, girl, there's times, you know, I come in and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so da. Yeah, oh, absolutely. And, but the thing is, you said unapologetically.
Yes.
Organic, raw, and real.
Yes.
Which is what you are. You and I both talked about this. We don't like fakies. We're, what you see is what you get.
1000%.
And so I'm just going to say to you that I don't think, you know, as women, we need to be so accommodating and so apologetic that if we take the time to build our business or build ourselves, whether it's, like you said, that's, to me, self-care has to do with being, you know, being with yourself and being, you know, you want to call it, you know, selfish. Sure, we can call it that, but just take some time for you. You have no time. And as a mother of young kids, I can tell you, I feel your pain. Got the t-shirt, got 4 t-shirts. But you have to take that time, because if you don't, your kids also suffer. And if you look at it that way, that you've got to be good for them, don't you think it's sort of changing your narrative and how you speak to yourself? Because I know nobody talks to you like the way you talk to yourself.
No, you know, like even the way you talk to me, I'm like, nope, cringe, gross. That's not me.
You're like, okay, I'm gonna throw up in my mouth. Okay, just.
She tells me to do this podcast, and I'm like, ew, no, vomit.
Yeah, exactly. But it's got to be. My thing is too. Whenever I do anything for the media, I want to know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I don't want to know the questions, because then I feel this is just for
more
me.
flustered, probably.
Well, I think you overthink it. I like off the cuff because it's scientifically proven that your memory cannot pull out a lie. You know how people say, you know, you tell one lie, you have to tell 10 lies to cover up one lie. Why? Because your brain doesn't, like, let's just say I said to you, oh yeah, you know, I couldn't make it because I was, you know, vacationing in Fiji. And, you know, 6 months later, I come and we're chatting and you're like, yeah, didn't you go on that vacation? And I'd be like, oh, to LA? Oh, I thought you said Fiji. Oh, yeah, but you know what? We changed it to LA and we whatever, blah, blah, blah.
So is that what happened when you went to LA?
Yeah, exactly. No, but I swear to God, I went to LA. I could show you the tickets. But I didn't even cancel on you. It was I'm begging joking. You, saying, I need to see you before I go to LA. But the thing is that, you know, doing the whole, like, negative and self, like, just changing your narrative, that for me was life-changing when it came to building, you know, any kind of new routines or confidence. It is about self-talk, because really, who do you live with 24/7?
Your mind.
The wonderful, beautiful mind, right? And it can be, you know, kind of a screwed up place sometimes, right?
Yes.
And you've got these negative narratives, and you know, something that's really helped me and your family will probably end up thinking you're, you know, gone off your rocker or something, but I know one of the things that helped me, because they're like, write down, you know, your negative self-talk.
Right.
Because I was so busy, I found it hard to do, so I started talking. When I started getting to my negative space, I would say things to myself that I was thinking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I hope nobody can hear me.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought to myself, that was my aha moment, where it's like, I would never say these things to a friend, a stranger, or anybody, but you're saying them to yourself. You know, you should be most kind to yourself, and a lot of us are the least kind to ourselves.
1000%.
Right? And if you are intuitive, I'm sure you remember, you know, the whole secret and the law of attraction.
Yes.
You attract
What you put out there.
Yes.
And I say that to my clients all the time. What you put out there, if you're constantly putting negative out there, that's what you're going to attract. But I am the worst at taking my own advice. So, there.
No, I don't believe that. I think right now, the way that I see you, if I may, is that you're transitioning and into a really good place. And like I said, for me, the way that I see you is not the way you see yourself.
No, that's like everybody though.
I know, but when you catch up, you're going to be like, oh, fabulous. Waiting. Fabulous me. Do it. I'm telling you.
Fabulous me.